with Iran's uranium enrichment now approaching weapons grade levels, and recent US diplomatic overtures stalling, what are the most likely scenarios for the 2025 US Iran negotiations, and which key indicators should we monitor to anticipate each outcome? It's a good question. For that, I'm going to have to go to my Twitter account. I'm going to just put a tweet on the screen that I had tweeted some time ago about this very matter. Let me just give me a second. I'll put that on the screen very rapidly. Okay, let's bring this on the screen. That's my tweet from a while ago, and that essentially answers your question. So, this is a tweet of mine from, what's the date? April 19, 2025. So that's about a couple of weeks ago I put it out. And I said that there's a high possibility of a stalemate. The US has adopted a maximalist stance. The US insists that Iran fully dismantle its nuclear program and all of its enrichment facilities. You cannot enrich uranium. That's what the US says. And Iran obviously refuses to budge on its red lines. Iran says that its enrichment rights are non negotiable. So, the most likely outcome, I said on April 19, is that there will be no agreement. There will be a prolonged impasse, assuming that neither side is willing to make any major concessions. Obviously, neither side will make major concessions. Impact: no sanctions relief for Iran. And a less likely outcome is that there can be an interim deal or some kind of de-escalatory understanding only if cooler heads and creative diplomacy prevail, which have not prevailed. So that's the deal. So I had laid it out on April 19 what was going to most likely happen, and that's exactly where we are today, 2 weeks from that time, from the day I tweeted that. um, so there's a stalemate, there is an impasse. uh, Recently, I think today or yesterday or whatever it was, the news came out that the Iranians have cancelled or postponed the next round of negotiations, which was supposed to happen whenever. So they have cancelled that or postponed that. So looks like, progress is not happening. And the Americans, like I said, have adopted a maximalist stance. Iran has to abandon its nuclear program. Iran has to give up its attempts to enrich uranium, and so on. And obviously, no sovereign nation will accept such terms. Um, so, look, I don't know what Iran's uranium enrichment capabilities are right now. Whether it's 60%, like is being said by some people, or whether it is closing in on 90%, 95%, which is weapons grade uranium. I'm not sure what the capabilities are, what the status is, but they have been at it for a very long time, the Iranians. And well, if you were to ask me, if you were to ask me to give you my best guess, my best estimate, I would say they have enough uranium, enriched uranium, for a few nuclear warheads, at least for a few, maybe five, let's say, tactical nuclear warheads, kiloton scale warheads. That would be my best estimate or guess. Um, so yeah, that's where we are, and it looks like there's going to be no progress on that. Look, what the Americans were trying to do and are trying to do. Um, See, ever since Trump came to power, they've been trying to isolate China. Trump wanted to end the Ukraine war on day one. So he and Putin, he thought, would sit down and decide on what happens to Ukraine and sign an agreement, and the war is over. But the world has a way of being inconvenient. So that did not happen. The European nations came in the way, the Western European nations, EU and NATO nations came in the way and goaded Zelensky not to give in. And then Zelensky went to Washington and fought in the White House with Trump and Vance, and things did not progress. And for some time, Trump stopped giving aid to Ukraine. Now it started again. Now the minerals deal is signed. So what Trump initially wanted was to bring Putin on his side by giving him a good deal to end the Ukraine war. That did not happen. And after the Europeans came in the way, and uh, Zelensky dragged his feet, and all this happened. Then Putin started adopting a maximalist stance. He became very rigid on his demands. with his demands. And as a consequence, now the Americans have pulled out of whatever mediation they were doing. So looks like the Ukraine war is not ending. Trump had said, he had promised that I will end the war on day one. It's not happened. He has failed in that. Uh, so what he wanted to do, what Trump wanted to do, was to bring Putin on his side. And by bringing Putin on his side, he wanted to isolate Xi Jinping and Beijing. That was number one. Then he wanted to slam all those tariffs on China, the 145% tariffs and all that, which he has done. That has completely decoupled the two economies. There's no more trade now, essentially. Also, it's gone down to practically zero. So, so that would put a huge amount of pressure on China. And then probably he wanted to give some kind of deal to Iran, to bring Iran also on his side, if possible. He tried, but by adopting a maximalist stance, he ensured that Iran doesn't come on his side. So what's happened is that there is this tug of war going on right now in the world between the US and China. The US wants to bring as many nations as possible on their side. They tried with Russia, did not work. Because Russia also is not stupid. Putin is not stupid. He understands that long term, I mean, short term, you may get something. Long term, it's a whole different story. Iran also understands that. So the bottom line is that Russia and Iran and China and North Korea are the nucleus of a new coalition. Maybe some other nations may join them. Mr. Xi Jinping was recently, in the last couple of weeks, on a whirlwind tour of Southeast Asia, Vietnam, and whichever other countries he visited. And apparently, it was a very good trip. And these nations are eager for Chinese investments, but they are wary of Chinese expansion and so on. So it's same old story. So what we are seeing is a decoupling of the world, and Iran is something the Americans tried to bring on their side. It's probably not going to work. So this deal is essentially a non-starter. The Americans walked away from the last deal they had. Trump walked away unilaterally from the last nuclear deal with Iran. The Iranians are not going to be that easy to convince this time. And obviously, with a maximalist approach, doesn't work. If you are, uh, pointing a gun at somebody and then saying let's negotiate, doesn't work. So yeah, that's the way it's going to go.